Just thought I'd do a quick one here just to clarify a couple of items that I brought up in my last video. One of them was, and I'm surprised I forgot this, Alex Jones and the scandal that kind of got him removed from a lot of platforms and sued. And I'm trying to remember now what the result of the lawsuit was, but it was the Sandy Hook murders. Basically, that was a tragedy that happened when a school was it was a school in the town, I guess, of Sandy Hook, where a bunch of young children were killed by a obviously psychotic young man who had been allowed to muck around with weapons by his mother, who owned the weapons. I guess I think he killed her first, and then ran amok at the school she used to teach at, and I think he went to as well. Anyway, um, and Jones made it out to be a conspiracy and that nobody was killed, and they were all actors. And it got to the point where the people who followed him were harassing, believe it or not, the the family members of the children who were killed, slaughtered in this school by this psychopath. So they would appear in public and talk about how they wanted it was I guess a automatic weapon that was used, or semi-automatic weapon. And they wanted some regulations put in place. They never wanted this to happen again, naturally. And they got harassed by these people who believed Alex Jones' conspiracy theory that no one died, and the police were lying, everyone was lying, and these people were actors. So they finally went after him, and I think successfully sued him. He claimed it was his, in the effort to manipulate and to maintain the attention of these people, you have to continually come up with new conspiracies. And he said that's the pressure that forced him to do all these, he blamed the people who he catering to for his own madness and recklessness and stupidity. And I'm not sure. I think he's a cold-blooded manipulator of these people for money. Period. End of story. Which I don't know if it makes him worse than the guys who believe that crazy stuff or not. But so that's one thing that brought Alex Jones into I guess world attention, and certainly attention of a lot of people outside of the conspiracy world. The other thing was I wanted to put a little more meat around the idea of what I'm saying when I talk about the threat of something like the algorithms of Facebook and the algorithms of YouTube. Some of you are very familiar with what I'm referring to, and others may not be. But the idea being, for Facebook and YouTube and others to sell the FaceTime of your eyeballs on their pages. And the longer they can get them to you to stay on their pages, the more money they make. And one of the ways that they've developed to do this is by putting together software. Algorithms are the terms that you use to describe the kind of software we're talking about, that go through iterations of options for you. And they've got the money, they've got the people, they've got the time, and they go through and determine in great detail what kind of a person you are if you watch this, if you watch that. And then they start positioning various channels on YouTube and content on Facebook and YouTube. And it's positioned very exactingly towards the person that you are. They understand a lot about who you are. They can understand things like where you live. They can understand things like how much money you make, and then what you might buy also. So they can understand what kind of car you might buy. But also they know a lot about your mindset based on what you view and what you click on. And the danger here and what's happened here, I guess, is um, you know, YouTube and Facebook, and especially Facebook, as some people have spent an awful lot of time on it. You know, communicating with friends and family, and then picking up news and entertainment, and they can create a little bubble, as they say, in which you're viewing nothing but reinforcing content that continually draws you towards it because of your interests. And if it's conspiracies, or if it's right-wing politics or left-wing politics, or you name it, whatever it is, they will produce it and then continuously feed you the same thing. So instead of getting what used to be there, which, you know, we talk about the, you know, for people our age, my age, 60s, you talk about, you know, network television would try to provide an even-handed view of the world, and right and left-wing views of an issue, whereas now you have extreme right-wing, middle-of-the-road right-wing, left, and then extreme left, and groups. And these channels, these groups, specialize in the more extreme things that are tailored to their community. And it's been pretty clear, I think, that a lot of them are willing to bend the truth or completely make things up, or follow along and say they're not the ones making it up, it's somebody else, but they're just showing that stuff. You know, such as the idea that the election was fraudulent in the US. I mean, anyone who's, you know, I didn't do a deep dive on what it would take to manage an election in the US, to steal an election in the US, but fundamental to the thing that really gets me about it is, like here, they depend upon volunteers to do a lot of the work. You know, people who are able to commit some time and volunteer some time and work at the polling stations and all of the essential things that are going on to have an election. And so what you're really doing when you're claiming that the election is fraudulent is you're claiming that your neighbors, the ordinary people all across the country, as it would be in Canada, are liars, are cheats, are simply criminal almost in their behavior. Everybody is a criminal. And, you know, you see that kind of crazy stuff when the guy blew up that federal building. Oh, what was his name? Here is another thing I forgot. But he was tried and convicted of, and I think they sentenced him to death. He was a former soldier. It was in the 90s, and it was a federal building in the U.S. blown up and killed a lot of people, children and everything, women, children, you name it. There was a daycare center in the building. You know, rolled a van up full of fertilizer and blew the van up and basically took the whole building down. And it may come to me the name, but regardless, you know, you have to believe that a lot of ordinary people, you know, who makes up the FBI, who makes up the, you know, the tobacco and firearms groups, you know, the various federal regulators, they're just regular people. Like, if anyone really thought about it, who are they? You know, they're not evil. They're not crazed. They're not out to take your rights. They're not out to, they're just regular people. Some regular people can do crazy stuff. You know, some policemen can go over the board and beat the heck out of somebody for no reason. That can happen. But the vast majority of these people are just regular people like everybody else. And, you know, this ability to think of your fellow human and your neighbor as being a monster is bad, dangerous, and needs to be. I think that's the quickest way to dispel something like it. I haven't seen it done in the U.S. where they describe various arcane aspects of running an election and the polling, and you know, dealing with the electronic votes and mail-in votes and all that stuff. But they should emphasize the very benign aspects of it, and the fact that these people who do this work are many of them are volunteers. It's thankless work, and it's being done in the goodness of their hearts, and they're just regular people. So, yeah, it's like the moon landing conspiracy. Yeah, all it took was 20,000 people, normal people, to lie about what's going on. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. That ain't going to happen. That kind of stuff escapes instantly from there's no secret you can keep of that kind. So anyway, thought I'd drop this down, and for further explanation and comments below, if you feel like it, I might throw a link in there to some of the Timothy McVeigh. That's the name of the guy who blew up the federal building in I think it was Colorado somewhere. Anyway, Timothy McVeigh. That's the guy who was at the heart of blowing up that building. So anyway, those people unfortunately are very, very disturbed, and do think of their fellow humans as being very corrupted, and most people aren't. So anyway, thanks for the view, and comments below if you have some. And it's starting to warm up out there. Here's hoping spring comes. Talk to you later, boys and ladies.